it's Tandy with the Sustainable Alaska podcast. We're really glad to have you with us today. I am excited to be talking with Todd Begettis from Alaska Farm Supply. And I think this is going to be a really cool show. It's neat to see everything that they've put together. They started out as just a little tiny store, and pretty soon I feel like you guys have now everything anybody could ever want. So I say we just jump in. And Todd, I'm really glad that you joined us today. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Tandy.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell my husband, you guys made it worth the drive to Palmer, which is to me a big deal because Palmer just it's a whole hour. It's an hour long drive, and so, but having you guys there and knowing that I can get everything I need pretty much for the barn. And your people, I just drive a little Jeep, and your guys that work out there, I always just I'm like, it's a game of Tetris. Whatever you can just fit it in there the best you can. It's always been
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So okay, so Todd, let's just start at the beginning. Are you from Alaska, or what brought you to Alaska?
It's a very tough question because being a family in the military and a family that traveled a lot, the longest I've lived in one state is Alaska. So I call Alaska home. When people ask me, where did you go to high school? Well, I went here for a few years. I went here for a few years, and I don't have one place. Probably second would be New Hampshire, below Alaska, and then I've lived in Maine. But I don't know. I think I've been in at one point either lived or was in there for a long time, like 33 countries, 20 something states. But Alaska, I've lived in the longest, and we did 3 military tours in Alaska, and then after that, I retired and I stayed here. So I consider Alaska home.
Aha. So it kind of got under your skin. It tends to do that.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So what was it about Alaska that made you want to stay here when you retired?
Um, Peacefulness,
Mm.
less regulation. It feels more freedom. If you want to do things, homestead, you have the opportunity to. There's challenges in Alaska like weather, um, geographic challenges too, um, supplies. We have those challenges up here, but if you want to have a homestead or buy some land and do things yourself and do things the way you want to, at least you have the freedom up here to do that if you want to choose to do that. And that's
Yeah.
what I like about Alaska.
I think that's pretty common to a lot of people when they get up here. You realize you have more freedom and the ability to do more things. I feel like there's more opportunity up here too. I'm glad I raised our kids in Alaska for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so now you're retired military, you're living in Alaska. What on earth made you make the jump to open a feed store? I'm excited to hear this story.
Well, before the military, I was inspired. I was on my uncle's farm. He had a lot of livestock, vegetables, even fruits. I would spend my summers with him, and he was a big mentor. And I learned a lot just by watching, and I grew a passion for it. Before the military, I was a definitely shy introvert, and I took to livestock and farming. Because of the market, he had to switch gears after I joined the military, just because of market trends, and they couldn't make as much money. And he went into maple syrup and Christmas trees. So then I go in the military and I retire. And the whole plan when I retired was, okay, I'm gonna have a mini farm. I'm gonna have my own eggs, my own chicken meat. I'm gonna have some hogs. I'm gonna have fresh bacon, and you know, just like how he had. and a garden. We built the greenhouse, and I started Alaska Farm Supply. Um, and the goal was to fish, do my farm. And then one thing led to another. We started with a $1,500 investment, and I noticed I couldn't get the right stuff that I wanted. And I also noticed that there was a lot of price gouging, things that are obviously, you have to make money to stay in business, but not 100% margins. And so it kind of made me a little upset. I'm saying that nicely, but how can we fix this? I'm just a little guy trying to start up, a hobby farm or maybe a side hustle farm where we can support our family with fresh stuff that we know what's in it. And I was frustrated. So I started up Alaska Farm Supply really for us and our family and friends. And then it just blew up into something. It blew up into something else where other farmers that were associates with us or friendly acquaintances. And then it finally went to the public. But we started out right here where I'm sitting on my couch. Um, with a little bit of supplies, and then we moved into a reindeer shed that stored food and beet pulps and reindeer feed and chicken feed, and we cleaned that out, and we went to my side yard, and then we went to my front lawn, and then my wife said something has to go. You have the whole place covered. I have no more lawn anymore. So we leased a property across the street from us, which was a dual purpose commercial and residential, but we were allowed to, store farm products over there. And then that got crowded. And then we're like, we just can't keep up with volume. And it's not by appointment only. Then we had regular hours, Monday through Friday. And then we opened up a commercial property, developed that. And then 6 days a week, Monday through Friday and Saturday. And then one building, and then we expanded like 4 or 5 times. And now, just recently, in the fall, we purchased just over 6 acres of property next to us, and that's we're building a warehouse there this summer, so we can support a lot of feed stores to get their prices down and get them high quality products. So it kind of snowballed. It wasn't planned at all.
Sometimes that's the best, those are the best stories when it's almost accidental. Our farm story, I call it our accidental farm story. We just
Yeah,
planted way too much kale one year. And so I just posted on Facebook. I was like, we have some kale. We've got quite a bit of squash. If we'll just fill a grocery bag of vegetables, and whoever wants to meet me at Fred Meyer, $40, you get this bag of vegetables. And we couldn't keep up. And so the next year we on purpose planted more, and it was, but like you kind of have to change, it has to work with your life, and it has to work with your family and work and all the other things. So but it's kind of fun hearing how your original vision was, I can't, if I'm understanding correctly, I can't get what I want from
yeah,
another retail store. So I am going to get what I want, but I'm going to have to figure out how to do it on my own. And then
yeah,
other people heard about it, or I know sometimes it's a volume thing too. So you might, to a couple friends, hey, if we get a whole pallet of this, we can get it for, way less. Let's do this together.
yeah.
And so it's really fun to see that it's kind of gone from there. So if someone were to ask you what sets Alaska Farm Supply apart from anyone else. And we've got some really neat feed stores. I'm not picking on anybody, but what makes you just different? What what standards do you have that kind of put you in a different place?
Well, and this is all accidental, but we stick to it. It started out just me and my next door neighbor Nick. His father passed away, and we were thinking about something to do. He was only, I don't know, 12 years old, maybe 13. I'm getting to the end of my career, and hey, let's do something. I wanted to do something productive for him too. And so it was me and Nick started
I love
Alaska
that.
Farm Supply from the beginning. And my son was still too young, but he was, helping out with little things. Maybe he was 6 at the time, 7 at the time. I'm not sure. And then we got so big that I called my brother up. He lived in Ohio. He worked for an international paper. I got him to leave his job, and he came up here. And then it was us. And then eventually, my mother-in-law, she helps out. She's disabled, but she helps out with a lot of admin stuff. She was helping us out with our taxes and bookkeeping and things like that because I was too busy. And then my wife, and then now Nick's 22 years old and he's married, and his wife works for us. So it's all family roots, and then our extended family also works for us, where it's close friends, either folks from church or folks we knew. Like we have this girl, Olivia. She's almost 16 years old. Um, when she was Paxton's age, she started working for us, just as, I don't know, 8 years old. I forget, but she was helping us one way or another. And so everybody that we have too, we all have a background in farming
Hmm.
one way or another. Either we're growing potatoes, or everybody has some sort of livestock that works at Alaska Farm Supply. It could be somebody like my brother that has pet rabbits, or it could be Alicia that has cows, you know. But we have every livestock covered except for, I think, muck socks right now and emus, but we have everything else. um, so that knowledge, we don't want to be like, and not to put them down. There's some good people there, um, but we don't want to have somebody ask a question and then have them pull up their little phone device and they read the information. We want to be knowledgeable. We may not be experts, but we want to at least give them a good base of knowledge. And if we don't have the specific questions, be able to point them to other resources that will have those detailed questions. And so I think that that's the difference. And we're also in a community. Matsu Valley has a high population of ag, small farms, and homesteads. So we're in the right place where we can recruit as we expand the right people with the right knowledge. If we were in Anchorage, downtown Anchorage, we're not around our base. And the selection of people, there's great people everywhere in Alaska, but we would have a harder time finding the right people.
Right.
Um, like right now, we're looking for a yard manager. We're just not going to hire anybody. We'll suck it up. If I have to work, 80 hours a week, I'll do that because I want the right person.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
makes sense. So I want to dig in for a minute to animal nutrition and I say that, but that's such a big, huge subject and we're not going to be here all day. So so let's just kind of hit the highlights.
yeah,
Why do you guys bring in a lot of feed? Um, and you formulate your feed, is that right? Like talk for a minute about what it is that makes you different in the feed in the area of feed.
yeah. So in Alaska, we have we can grow barley and we can grow oats.
Okay.
as far as commodities that, certain things you can use within feed. Feed is like baking a cake. There's a bunch of different ingredients. Similar to a cake, you have, a little flour, a little sugar, a little baking soda. There's different things. It's the same thing with feed, but the difference is if, for example, if corn is in feed, corn grown in one state and corn grown in another state, there's a difference in the nutritional value between each corn. Corn is not corn. Um, wheat is not wheat. It's the same. It's the same commodity, but there's different grades of it. And so when somebody looks at a label, sometimes they don't realize that. They're not thinking about that. They're looking at the picture and the bag, and they sometimes if they should, but sometimes they don't even glance at the nutritional label on the bag. And quite frankly, sometimes that isn't even correct if you do a lab analysis.
Mhm.
There's a lot of laws and regulations with food that you buy at the grocery store, but I would even say some of that is pretty light. And then you go over to feed, and we know this because we've put a lot of money and energy into it, and we have our own livestock. So the point of us investigating this a little bit was based on our own livestock and our own needs, not Alaska Farm Supply.
Right, right.
But we've known, like for example, we notice, hey, our eggs shells are pretty thin, or it tastes a little bit different, and they're not laying as much, or you know just little things about the bird. It's about the bird's health. And for us, I think we go back to high grade. If we have the lowest prices in Alaska, but if we wanted to lower our prices 15 to 20% more, we could easily do that. But we would have to change the grade and the sources of the commodities that are part of it. So there's a balance between the highest grade, the lowest grade, and price.
Yeah.
And for us, we put more value on the grade. And I don't want to sound, I don't have an ego or anything like that, but I know we have the highest grade ingredients in our feed. I guarantee that you could take it to any lab in Alaska, outside Alaska, side by side, send samples in. And I know our commodities that make up the feed are the highest grade possible. And they're from the same source. So when you shop around for wheat across the nation, a lot of companies they'll buy wheat from the cheapest available source. They'll price shop it. We'll go with a high grade commodity, same farmer, same location. We know that farmer. We actually make site visits to that farmer, and we know he's not putting chemicals or junk. It's the way God made it in the field, and that's the way we want it in the feed. And so that I think that's what separates us, the high grade, the same source, and us knowing where we're actually getting the commodity that makes up the feed. And that's including minerals, vitamin packs. You could buy vitamin E from different sources in the US and Canada, and you can also get it in China. And it coming from North America, there's higher standards. There's inspections there. You can verify the grade. Once you start outsourcing different commodities that make up feed from, nothing against China or Asia or anything like that, we still get a lot of products from them. But it comes down to, we want to support our company. We want to support good countries in North America that we can verify the ingredients and we know what's behind it instead of just guessing. and shopping around for the cheapest price.
So it's kind of a quality issue, is my understanding. And I kind of
Yeah.
I feel like we can liken it to we raise when we for we have older kids, and when they were in school, they did 4-H, and they were, we were very involved in the ag community. And then they kind of all graduated at once. They two graduated at the same time, and one graduated the year before. So they just kind of all of a sudden were gone. And so Gene and I we kind of got rid of most of our livestock, and just kind of regrouped a little bit. What's it going to look like now that it's just us?
Yeah.
And then we have Abby, who's quite a bit younger, but who at the time. Anyway, and so uh, when I so we because we got rid of our livestock, I was buying all of our food mostly from the grocery store. I grew some of our vegetables, and we grow most all of our fruit,
Yeah.
but everything else was coming from the grocery store. Well, I remember cooking up some hamburger, and this was exceptionally yucky hamburger. I'll just say
Yeah.
that. It was probably really cheap, and I probably felt like I got a great deal and was very happy with it. But I just remember in my pan was I call it sludge. I'm sure it wasn't. I have no idea what was coming out of that hamburger, but something wasn't right. And I, we didn't eat it because I know what's in what my hamburger is supposed to be like. We'd raised beef, and all this stuff was not supposed to be coming out in my pan. This was not normal. And then it was kind of the same with chicken. When you cook chicken, I couldn't make my granny's crispy fried chicken because of all the water and whatever that liquid is that comes out of the chicken. And I couldn't figure out for the longest time what my problem was. I was like, why can't I make crispy fried chicken? What the heck, But it's because all this stuff was coming out of it. And so that's when I started researching, and that's when we decided to we were like, we just can't do this. We've got to raise our own food or something. But I can say that we just switched to your chicken feed. What about a month ago, and our um chickens are went nuts laying, for one thing. We're getting way more egg production, but also when I used to feed them, they'd eat it. But now every time I pour their feed in, they like flock to the feeder, and I think that's really fun. It's obvious that they really like this food. It's not just something to sustain them, but they like the flavor. I don't know what's different, or maybe it's got stuff in it that they needed. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Um, but I like what you say. We can't, a person, just a regular layman, can't necessarily tell, but you know that your products are better. So you're going to hold it to that standard, even if the label doesn't necessarily show, although the label's going to show some other nutritional things that are important. Nothing on that label says our corn has the highest nutritional quality that we could find. But you know that, and I think that's huge. And knowing what's in our food is every bit as important for our livestock as it is for the humans. And so I commend you. You guys are doing a great thing.
I also, just my background, talk is cheap. Um, so we're kind of a word of mouth company.
Yeah.
As far as, everybody, there's beautiful commercials out there, if you YouTube and, from all these big brand names. And what it comes down to, why so many people have switched over to a lot of the big farms in Alaska is, they'll have a few thousand birds, some of these big farms, and they'll take 100 birds and they'll put them on our feed, and another 100 and put them on somebody else's feed. And they'll have the same water, same, everything will be the same. And we'll just have, 15% higher yields. And when you have higher grade nutritional value, they're taking that nutrients and they're not pooping it out.
Yeah.
So we find out that they're using actually less feed too.
Very interesting. Uh, and helpful for folks who I'm not super sciencey, but I know what I can afford, and if I can put out a better product, even at the same price, but my if it's the same price, but my product is better, or if in the end we're using 10% less feed, that's awesome. Are do you have a stand on genetically modified products in your feed?
Some of our feed we get from Haystack Naturals. And Haystack Naturals, they're in Oregon. And based on the laws and the regulations, they're able to put the non-GMO on on their feeds. Um, some of them have it, and some of them are on their website. And we've talked to them. Hey, if it's non-GMO, let's put it on the bag. If you're certified, you jump through all the red tape and hoops. Let's put it on. It's something to be, Alaskans want to know that. Um, and then you have other states and provinces that can also do it, or are doing it, but in order to get the official stamp or certification, it costs additional money. So for us, it's a balance. If it's not going to cost much, we want to put it on the bags,
Mhm.
but we're not going to put it on the bags if it costs a lot of money, and we're not going to put it on the bags if we're just not going to lie about it. Um, there's a lot of there's a lot of companies out there that just rubber stamp it. We could put non-GMO on our feed. I Not all of it, but I bet probably at least 90-95%. Um, but it'll raise the price of the bag.
I hear you. We are not a certified organic farm. People ask us that all the time. Are you certified organic? I'm like, no, we're better.
Yeah,
I, because I'm not going to pay for that because if we have to pay for that certification, then our customer has to, and
yeah,
our product is already expensive enough. And so I try to guide them in questions to ask. What do you want to know? What does organic mean to you? Come out to the farm. Come see what we do. Come,
yeah.
see all the things. And I think that's so much better than I mean there's something to be said for the stamp. You have that visual and that quick, oh, this feels safe. But asking the questions, I think, is probably more important, and understanding the company, I think, is probably it's probably more important, and it's more telling on you're going to get a better answer of what exactly it is that you're looking for. Um,
Like for our product, yes, we can get it certified. And the FDA, any government certification is really a low standard in my mind. There's a lot of private certification companies, and I talked to one of you have a relationship with a vendor. Um, I forget the name, but I spoke to them, and the same thing. They have an extreme high certification process. It blows the government away.
yeah,
We could do that too. If a customer wants something certified organic, it'll be the same bag, it'll be the same pallet, but there's additional costs. So yeah, I can get this certified for you, but it's going to cost you an extra 10 or $15 a bag in order to do it.
yeah, yep. I agree. It's though this world is a little bit convoluted in that
Yeah.
regard. Can you talk for just a second about some manufacturers who do things a little tricky, or maybe mislead their customers? Um, and I'm assuming this is in regards to feed and how can a person not be misled or tricked? I guess that would be what's the solution?
Number one thing is education. The more you know, the more knowledge. We want people to be educated. We want Alaska to be educated. We encourage independent lab analysis because there's a lot of label misreading. There's in Alaska, there's no agency or department that goes around testing feedbacks. It
Mm.
happens in some states, It happens in some provinces. Um, but in Alaska, I could make a feed bag and stick any label on it I want. I'm just going to go with 16% layer pellets. It could have
Mhm.
14.5%. And when you have inconsistent ingredients, just with barley, the barley changes. You buy barley in Alaska, we grow it here. It could be 2% lower in protein compared to a barley made in Washington. Each a neighbor could be one farmer could be growing barley. The next farm over could be growing barley, and there could be a difference in protein between those two farmers by a percentage. And it typically it's not a lot. You're not going to have 6% barley and 12% barley, but there is a difference in quality. There's a difference with sprouting too. We sell local barley, we sell local oats. Um, we sell a lot of barley. The folks that sprout barley,
Hmm.
we be using out of state mostly because they're getting, 90, 95% plus sprout rate. And and sometimes depending on the harvest, sometimes they'll get a 50% sprout rate with local barley. On a good year, they may get 70. So it's challenged in Alaska. It's like we want to support local farmers. We buy local farm products, and but some based on the situation of the customer, it may be a good fit and it may not be. There's folks that are trying to get high yield sprouting rates,
Hmm.
and if they're buying barley for $15 a bag, I'm just throwing out numbers, or they're buying out of state for 20, and if they're going to get 95% yield versus 60%, it's a mathematical equation, and it's not supporting local. It's more about what's best for their financial situation and farm and their goals. I also think a couple other things I see outside of feed that people should pay a close attention to is we have a lot of harsh weather here, moisture, snow, wetness. September it rains all the time. So when a product says galvanized on it, there's different classes of galvanization. There's electro galvanized, there's class one galvanized, and class three galvanized. So if you go into a box store, a lot of times it'll say, even on fencing, staples, all the hardware that you guys, all the farms use, we use. If it says galvanized, 99.9% of the time it's electro galvanized, which is the weakest type of galvanization you can make. It's basically dipped in a zinc solution, and there's electricity that goes through it. It lifts up and it puts a very thin layer of zinc on the product itself. And with our conditions up here, it'll rust. So
Yeah.
when you buy something from a reputable brand, um, it needs to say class one hot dipped. It's a higher concentration of zinc that goes on it. It protects it from rust, from our environment. And then when you go really into it, if you're using it for saltwater application, or if the product is going to be submerged underwater, um, for growing or for anything you can think of, even deck rails that are in Homer next to the coast, a lot of people want class three hot dipped, and it's just a higher. And you can Google us and stuff, but it's a higher concentration of zinc. For farm application, at the very least, go with class one hot tipped. And so you may see a hog panel, for example, and it'll be $40, and you may see another one for $45. Well, the customer is going to think, oh, it's the same product. I'll go with the $40 one. But one will be electro galvanized, one will be class one hot dipped. And so a lot of times customers don't know that. Um,
Yeah.
we'll go with hot dipped on our products because the last thing we want to do is sell you a cattle panel Tandy, and then 5 years from now it's corroding and rusting and the welds pop and an animal gets hurt. So for
Yeah.
us, we're here to stay, and we don't want to ruin our reputation, and we want to be honest with the people. So we just go with the higher grade, even though we could probably shrink our prices 5 to 10% if we went with electro galvanized.
Wow. That's see, these are things again that you just don't necessarily know. And I know multiple times I have bought products, um, not from you, from, whatever. Uh, and I'll base it on the price, and then you get home and you realize, well, that was a mistake.
Yeah,
Because for and you don't know what you don't know. So understanding the difference even in galvanization it's a big deal. So I appreciate you taking the time to explain that because we want to make the purchase one time. Not we don't
yeah.
want to have to purchase it again. And like you said, we don't want our animals to get hurt or get out or, heaven, gosh, anything can happen. So I think that's super important. Um, so tell us real quick about what all you carry at your store. And while you're talking about that, I'd love to hear about this new room that you've put on that has some medical supplies and stuff.
Yeah. Could I throw something in there? A few more tricks to the trade too.
Yeah, go for it. It's all yours.
Another thing we see too in the industry is if you have a roll of wire, it could be chicken wire, it could be welded wire, it could be field fence, you name it, hinge joint. A lot of times the manufacturer will put 12 gauge on it. The lower the gauge, the stronger the wire is, the thicker it is. And then and they'll round the numbers. So I'll give you an example. If it's 12.4 gauge, they'll put 12 gauge on the label. 12 gauge is stronger than 12.4, but they'll round it to make it look stronger and thicker. So we don't, we're one of the few companies that does not do that. We'll have 12.5 on our gauge. If it's 12.4, we're going to round the other way to the nearest half point. So when you buy wire from us, it may say 12.5 gauge, but it's actually probably stronger than a 12 gauge because we accurately mark it on the label.
I That's crazy. Is there no regulation at all whatsoever on this stuff?
In Alaska, I've never been inspected. I don't know anybody else who has. I don't
Chicken.
think if there is a regulation, there's no enforcement on it. So I could have literally wire that's 12 and a half gauge. I can mark it as 11 and a half gauge and fool customers. Granted,
Yeah.
we would never do that,
Right.
but companies could do that. And that there's certain companies that I know for a fact that do that. Um, so that's why I would recommend, everybody doesn't have a gauge meter or anything. But if you buy from a brand that maybe is new to a box store, maybe that's for me, I would test it if I
Yeah.
bought product outside of mine.
Yeah.
If there's something I need for a hobby farm and we didn't have it and I had to source it outside, yeah. And I'm gonna do that like before I buy a product from a manufacturer, we're gonna do that too in-house. We never just buy, we always get samples and we test the samples. And then a lot of times isn't even stated on the sample, but steel is not steel. There's different grades of steel. And once you get to a certain level of steel, it's called high tensile. And high tensile steel has more stretch rate. It doesn't break as easily. A tree could fall on it and you move the tree and you can stretch it back. Um, so it's a it's a big gap of what considered high tensile. So we have product that just barely meets the guidelines of being high tensile, like some of our wire, but we don't call it high tensile. For us, it has to be in the middle of that strength um, gauge. If it just barely meets it, we're not going to put high tensile, but another company will. And so it's just something you have to dig into. So education is a good thing, or going with somebody that you trust is a good thing. If Because a lot of people don't have the time to investigate that.
Yeah, or the knowledge again. Um, it's amazing. Sometimes as a retail customer, it feels like everybody is out to take you. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And that
Yeah.
sounds so defeatist and so negative and so yucky, but as a farmer, we work really hard for every penny we make, and most people do. And so um it's got to be something where we get a decent quality and we know what we're getting. So I think this kind of educational stuff is fascinating. I wouldn't know. I'm the farm runner. So Jean's the fence putter together. I'm the one that goes and buys
Yeah.
the stuff. So this is super helpful for me to know all the different components and aspects. So I appreciate that a lot. That's
Tandy,
cool.
there's so much, like we could have a whole day and talk
Ugh,
about it. There's so many things, and these are the things that made me a little upset. And
yeah.
like they're not being honest with us. I like the research. I like to really dig into it. Rubber
Yep.
mats, we see it too. They'll go with a different rubber, um, and it'll look the same, or they'll shave underneath the rubber mat. There's improvements, like we've seen them in box stores around. There'll be grooves underneath, but they'll go really deep up. And so it's a difference in weight, and then longevity, you'll lose it too, or they'll go with less oil in the rubber, where it's not as pliable. When you'll put it in negative 40 degrees with hooves on it, it'll eventually crack. So there's all little tricks that big industry uses, and that's what we hate. And so that's why I love education. It supports our business because the more people know, typically we get more sales,
Right.
and it's just it's good knowledge. I want to know that as a customer.
It is. And it's good to know. I am not going to I'm not going to test every blessed thing I buy. I'm not as the consumer. So there's I think who you're referring to before was Azure Standard. I There's something to be said for I get a lot of my most of my groceries that we don't grow or source locally. We get from Azure Standard. And I don't want to say I follow them blindly, but I know the standard that's behind the buying of the products there. And so because I have that trust with them, I am less apt. I feel like I can go there and buy freely and not have to worry, is there going to be this, that, or the other thing hidden in there? And it's the same thing with you guys with Alaska Farm Supply. I don't understand class 3 zinc contents and I don't care. Honestly, I mean I do care, but I don't want to have to know that for every product that I have to buy. So for me, there's something to be said for just buying from a company that I know is watching out for all that stuff, so I don't have to. There's there's comfort and there's just peace in that. So thank you for paying attention, so I don't have to. Um, but now I'm going to ask more questions, and I may ask them
Yeah,
all wrong, and they may be dumb questions, but I'm going to be asking because
yeah.
where are they trying to snooker me? Oh gosh. So what else do you carry in your store? Tell us about the products that you carry and then also about this new edition that you have.
So it's all about medical and health. So we've always carried a tiny bit of it, but there's a need for it. A lot of customers are going from one store to another store, um, and it's a hassle for people, and a lot of people, they have a limited supply, limited stock, and when you need something, you need it.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes it can be life or death with even small animals like poultry to equine. It doesn't matter. We have a limited amount of veterinarians in our area that specialize in livestock. We have some good ones, but it's limited, and sometimes you just can't get in there right away, or they're not able to go to your farm or homestead either. So we decided, okay, let's build a new wing of the building and just let's load it out with medical and health. And luckily, we have some people that work for us that have a background in medical and health, especially when it comes to livestock. And luckily, we have a lot of veterinarians that are customers too. Um, I don't have I'm not a subject matter expert in health and medical equipment for livestock. I know the basics, just like most people. But I think it was a team collaborative effort to grab veterinarians that we trust, that are customers, and the staff that we know that have a background in it. And we just filled it up full of medical stuff. Like even last week, we got all these new products, and we have the largest selection in Alaska right now as far as livestock and health products for livestock. Dogs, cats, not our forte. We have a couple things that cross over that can be used on, small animals and dogs, but we're talking sheep, goats, cows, equine, chickens, turkeys, reindeer. We Livestockers are bread and butter in our niche, and that's where all the medication and medical supplies are in that category. Syringes, just not dewormers, but blood draw stuff, syringes, pregnancy tests, um, different minerals, copper, selenium, colostrum. We just have it loaded up, and a lot of it comes from customers. If we have a customer that comes in, hey, is there something here that you need? And so far, we're not getting much feedback because I think we have it all. But we're open ears too. Like if you walk in and you see something, we may not have the specific brand because a lot of medications, there's dozens of brands that make the same thing, but we'll have it,
Hmm.
and we may have a couple different brands of that product.
I love that. That's great.
One other thing that we really try to do too is we have a few lines of um, medications and health products that are all natural. So we want to give people the choice. Some people, they like buying medical stuff from Big Pharma, and other people they want a more of a natural recipe to do the same thing. You could say I'm using common language. Um, so we want to give people the choice. We tend to go on the more natural side as a family, but we want people to make their own choice. And so we have both options, and that comes to just normal ointments to dewormers to stuff for ear infections, sores, hot spots, you name it. So we try to give both options to our customers so they can make their own choice.
Yeah, that's great. Things like that are hard to find. So I appreciate that. I know that um, in general, the public appreciates that we can go. There is like almost a one-stop shop. Like you're like the of livestock. I'm just kidding. Only better. No, but that it seems like you've put a lot of thought into making sure that you're supplying as broad of a spectrum of things as you can. And like you said, there are some vets up here, but they're limited. And if they get called out, there's the homestead world is exploding. So more and more and more of us are getting into animals, and the more people do, the less they know, right? So
Yeah.
we're trying to learn how to take care of our animals. And when you have a limited number of veterinarians who can go around and be to all the places, the more that we can serve our animals and fix small problems, then that leaves the availability for the veterinarians for the bigger problems that only they can handle. So that's good. Okay, and then what else do you carry? I know you do you carry incubators?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And you carry like chicken water, everything, there's never been anything that you didn't have that I needed for, well, for anything, for our lives, anything for the barn. And also, is it right that you're bringing in some chicks? You've got some chicks coming in the spring.
Yeah. So typically in the years past, it's been chicks, and once in a while we venture into ducks and turkeys. But this year, my wife took it to the next level, and we have, yeah, guinea hens, quail, pheasant, peacocks, a lot of the exotic um, birds that people use sometimes in Alaska. And then you have your normal ducks, turkeys, and chicks with, breed specific that we'll have. Um, we do it typically for the customers. We do a lot of large orders. So if people, they'll put a deposit in advance and we'll get them, 100 birds, 50 birds of a specific breed. So we do a lot of those, and then we'll have our in-store birds too. And we kind of do it where we get a limited amount, and we typically sell out fast.
So I feel like I kind of covered the indoor stuff. You also have a really fun, my daughter loves to go in with me because you have this great jewelry and you carry a really great magazine, Sustainable Alaska. You carry those at your store.
Yeah,
Um, there's cards, I feel like, and there's sweatshirts and so it's fun because it's not you don't have to just go in for a bag of chicken feed. There's all sorts of things that people can find there. But I've never really paid attention. What do you have outside? You have fencing, all your animal feeds outside. What else is out there?
so we keep rubber products that we manufacture outside, certain high grade rubber tubs and buckets,
Sure. Okay.
troughs. We keep different sheep and goat feeders. We have 5 different types of round bale feeders, and then we have a covered round bale feeder, um, T posts, 7 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot. We make everything. We switched. I think we have everything right now. It's either galvanized or black as their signature color. Rubber mats. We use virgin rubber instead of recycled, so they last for a long time.
Wow.
Um, we carry squeeze chutes now. We carry all different types of panels, from chickens to, big horses, draft horses.
And it all started in your backyard.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really fun. That's fun to think of. I bet sometimes your wife drives up and thinks, "Man, I'm glad this is not in my backyard."
Yeah. Big
Uh,
time.
I love it. That's great. Okay, well, we are really glad that you guys are here. Oh, I did have one other question. Actually,
Yeah.
someone asked me this the other day, and I didn't know. Do you guys ship products outside of the valley for people in
Oh,
other
yeah.
areas? Okay.
Yeah. So 25% of our sales, it might even be more this year, 2025, go to customers that don't live on the road. They live off road. You can only get there by boat,
Oh, wow.
snow machine in the winter, or bush plane. Um, there's no road, and they're off the grid. So we send a lot of product in the valley. We send a lot of product up the Deshka Landing, and then that product goes out by freight sled to different places, even all the way up to McGrath. We, the product leaves Willow and it goes to McGrath. We ship we deliver product to Northern Air Cargo, Everett's, Alaska Air Cargo, and they go to big hubs like Bethel, Nome, and they bring our products. And then we have a company that we work with, Alaska S- um, Snow and Freight, and they do deliveries, even up to the North Slope.
That's great. I'd say very good job. Okay, all right. Well, Todd, I appreciate your time today. It's been fun kind of getting behind the scenes, taking kind of a peek at what's going on and what's coming up with your new expansion. And so it'll be fun to see where you go. And thank you for being on the front lines watching for corruption, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, but geez Louise. So thanks for you doing the research so we don't have to, so we can get a product that works. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Tandy, for everything. We love your magazine and we love everything about you guys.
Well, we thank you.
Take care.